Good morning. It's just about 5 a.m. outside of Calgary here, and we are going to do a back to basics practice starting on hands and knees, then coming up into a lunge, and then up into standing. So we're just going to focus really specifically on how your parts are moving, helping grow your awareness, really helping you understand what's contributing to what it is that you're feeling or how it is that you're moving. So whether you're someone who is in pain and you're figuring out and sorting through your pain puzzle so that pain can reduce or eradicate, or maybe you're out of pain but you want to become more efficient in your movement, maybe be able to ski better, maybe you want to be able to run faster or lighter. As you gain better biomechanical patterns and overall better efficiency in your movement, you will notice a lot more ease and effortlessness in the activities that you do. The benefit of this also, unrelated but related, is that what I find with people is as they gain more efficiency, they also have way less inappropriate tension in their body, and it becomes a lot less fatiguing. Not that they even knew that they were fatiguing, but they have a lot more vitality and a lot more clarity of mind, which is really needed these days, hey? So this practice, while we're focusing on your body, has such impact all the way through your system. Okay, so let's begin. Coming onto hands and knees, have a roller close by or something similar to a roller. Sometimes when I don't have a roller, I use a medicine ball or a ball, or if I'm on wood floor, just a block or a towel. So we're going to be here in hands and knees, and let's just begin with doing a few little cows and then cats. Now you can do it however you want. I tend to like to begin from the pelvis just to see how I'm undulating up my spine, and then make it as sequential as I can. And then as I feel like I'm getting the sequentialness, particularly at 5 in the morning where I've just woken up recently, and so I might be not moving as fluidly as I would be later in the morning. So I might feel chunks of my body further up the chain moving faster or sooner into this than I would want. So I just pay attention to them and help those areas that aren't moving quite as well or the ones that are moving well. I just help them kind of come into an integrated whole. And then from there, after leading with the pelvis, then I start with my head and then round through my spine the other way. And so if you're used to doing your cat and cow one way, and then you add in a different way of doing it, it just changes up the process. All right, and then just allow your breath to come into this so that when you're coming into cow, which is this position, that's your inhale, and then your exhale is coming this way. Okay, lovely. All right, so now we're going to keep ourselves up like so. I'm going to try to keep my pelvis over top of my knees as best as I can, and I'm going to bring my hands forward. And then I'm going to take my hands over here to the side. Hips are still up. We're doing a nice side bend through here, coming back to center and then over to the side. And then come back to center, and let's just bring one arm down, the other arm out, forehead on your forearm. And then come up, and then other side. Okay, now let's come up into the roller. So the roller comes on one side. So it's on my right side. I take my left hand and I place the palm down. Some people like the palm up. Really is dependent on you. And then I help a twist arise. And the aim here is that we're not coming to the floor, right? Like a lot of times when we do a movement like this, it's like that. Now that's one exercise. That's not the exercise I'm teaching right now. What I'm teaching is this one here. So the focus is, you'll see my torso. It's about rotating in my torso. And this one can be very, very revealing, especially if you're limited and you didn't know it through your torso. And so many people have limitations in rotation of their torso. So be gentle with yourself and allow your breath to guide you. So try not to push past that. Do your best to keep your nose in line with your breastbone so that your head and neck are not leading this. And one of the benefits of rotation and improving your rotation is you'll find that your walking and your running and your standing feel a lot better, because your spine and your torso have such a role in our gait and our walking and our running and our skiing and our stair climbing. Okay, now we're going to go the other way. Really easy movement, easy breath. Okay, perfect. All right, so now from here you can move that to the side, and let's come forward here into a lunge. So we're gonna, you can come to the side straight on your mat. I just want you to see a vertical face-on position with me. Of course, if you need something underneath your knee, please do that. The idea here is we want the pelvis level as we can. And so as you come forward, depending on how far you're coming forward, there is about 7 to 11 degrees of extension purely here between the leg bone and the hip socket here. So at some point, if you pass by that, your pelvis will go into an anterior tilt. The thing that we want to be conscientious of is that we're not driving the movement by pushing through the back. I want you to think about driving the movement from your hip and your knees. So it becomes a leg movement, not a back bend. You might turn into a back bend because you go past that 3 to 11 degrees and then you are in here. That's okay. But the key is I don't want you to drive it from back here because you're limited here. Now you might not even consciously know you're limited here. So I just want you to move very, very small. So let's try to keep our upper body upright, not in a rigid way, but just keep the movement small for this exploration. Yeah? So now the movement here is between your knees and your hips. And that pelvis is facing forward. And just check with your back foot. Sometimes that back foot can sickle a little bit. And it becomes different when those toes are pointing backward, if that is available for you. Okay, so now I want you to lift your toes on the front foot and see if that's any different in your movement. It might not be. It's interesting to notice when you do different things, what the impact is through your system. Sometimes people find that there's more balance. Now, some people actually, when they lift their toes, they grip so much through the front of the lower leg that it becomes painful. So don't watch that you're not like gripping through that shin to do the movement. So if you are, dial it down. Think of the dimmer switch and just dial it down a little bit. Okay, now with the back foot, stay in this lunge. You're going to pull the toes up. Okay, not right on tippy toes like a ballerina, but on the forefoot. Okay, so now we'll be doing that. So here, pull those back toes up. So you're on the forefoot, which is different than toes under, which we'll do next. So the heel is not pushing back. It's more that the toes are pulling in toward the shin bone. Okay, and then feel what that is like. Okay, now take the toes under. Heel presses back now. And then get a feel there of what's going on. Good. Okay, perfect. Let's switch sides. So, starting with lunge, moving through the hips and the knees, and being aware of what's going on with those knees. So if you need to have something underneath your knees, then please do. Okay, great. And now from here, lift your front toes. And then pull the back toes up, let the front toes go. And you're just noticing the distinction in your body when you change these up. And the thing that becomes interesting, okay, let's take the back toes and heel presses back, is that when something feels off, we often will say that doesn't work for my body, which is the 1.0 version of awareness. If something doesn't feel good, yeah, it makes sense. Ditch it and do something that feels better. Then what starts to happen as you grow the stamina for your awareness and for what you're feeling in your body, you then begin to say, hey, wait a second. That kind of feels gross, but maybe it's not entirely gross. I wonder what's contributing to it feeling gross. So then you start to kind of play around with this gross feeling, or this yucky feeling, or whatever you want to call it. Very technical language, I know. But then you start to come to realize, well, wait a second, maybe this is the thing I actually need. And not that all gross things mean you need to do them. I'm not suggesting that at all. It's just that you now are at a 2.0 version, right? And because your awareness has grown, you've got the capacity just to experience it. Yeah? Okay. Bring yourself back to your knees. Okay, I want to do one more thing with lunge. Okay, come back here and come into a regular lunge. Now feel if that's any different. Take your hands here and then begin to twist. So when you do these back to basics practices, one of the reasons I do them, because I know a few of you follow me for all of these practices, what becomes really interesting is really understanding the landscape of sensation that exists inside of you. Okay, good. And untwist. Let's go to the other side. And we've been trained to not pay attention to sensation, right? Like we should push it aside. And there's a lot of talk these days around, don't pay attention to what you're feeling. I'm seeing a lot of that. And I get what they're saying, but the sensation in your body is important. It's there for a reason. It doesn't necessarily mean stop, but it does mean pay attention. Good. And then coming back. It's a great language of your body. Okay, come on here. Now let's come into standing. All right. In standing, now let's feel just the 3 points on the bottom of your feet. Yeah? So center of the heel, ball of the foot, base of the pinky toe. Feel those 3 points. And then just check in with your breathing. Good. Okay, now from here, palms are going to be down. So let me come up closer to the camera here. So your palms are going to be down and you're going to do this motion. So the movement is at your shoulder here, like this. Okay? And so it's a pulsing action. Okay, we're going to add breath here now. So we're doing a pulse and pulse, exhale, exhale. Yeah? So as your arms go back, it's an exhale through your nose or your mouth, whatever makes the most sense for you. Okay, so pulse, pulse. Now what we're going to do, my palms are facing down. We're going to flip the palms up like this. So pulse, pulse, and then flip them down. Now the thing you want to be conscientious of is that your ribs aren't doing this. That's not the movement. The movement here is the arm bone moving in the shoulder socket. Yeah. Pulse and flip. So whatever rhythm you're on, you might be on a different rhythm than me, but it's 2 back for palms up, 2 back for palms down. Exhale on the way back. And you'll find that your inhale naturally comes in. Okay, and let that go. Now let's just feel from your feet up through your body and just notice where you are at. All right, let's take the legs wide. Okay, now from here, you're going to do one of my faves, which is rotating those leg bones in the hip socket. I love that. My favorite is rotating the leg bones in the hip socket and then coming down into into this horseman's or goddess pose. And the reason why I love this so much is because it's just a really good place to say, aha, all right, how are my leg bones moving in my hip socket and my feet? How are my feet moving relative to my hips? Because so often in yoga, we talk about rotating the foot. The foot's not rotating. The foot's moving because of what's happening at the hip, right? And so when we really get this connection, and it's remarkable, especially for my yoga teacher clients, because they're so focused in on rotating that foot, because that's been all the cueing for since the beginning of time. It's been about rotating the foot. And really, it's up here. So when we can get the movement up in here and really have the focus up in here, so much can clear up, so much can become stronger, so much can become more stable. So we're going to take the hands on the outside of the thighs here, press those thighs back towards the hands, and just pay attention to what happens with the feet. You can even look down. So as you move those legs back into your hands, chances are, particularly if you tend to overpronate, you're going to see your arches lift a bit. But what's happened here is you haven't lifted your arches. The movement of your hip going backwards is what has had the arches lift. So it's not the foot proper that's lifted the arches, it's the movement through the hip. So you can see the chain reaction, the kinetic chain from your hip to your foot. So what goes on in your hips has such an impact on what happens at your foot. Yeah? Okay, now we're going to move forward. We're going to come forward into a flexion at the hip. So it's going to look like this. So legs are moving backward. Now we move the pelvis forward. Okay? And from here, we're going to do a little bit of rotation. Try not to push this arm back into the leg. Just leave the legs where they are and then start to take a twist. That's it. And then watch so you don't come forward, kind of like we did on the floor when we were kneeling. Keep it more in the same plane, and what you're doing is just rotating. You get to notice if the legs want to fall in. And just reset yourself. Maybe come up for a moment. We'll do one more round. Take a twist. Pay attention to those legs. Pay attention to the feet. Good. And then come back. And then other side. There you go. Notice if there's any extraneous gripping in through your shins or your feet. And then just ease off a little bit, but still be here. Ease off on the effort and still be here. Ease off on the effort and still be here. Okay, good. And then come on up here through the hips and then press up. Good. And now come back to standing. All right, now take a look at where you're at. So then from here, let's take us from Tadasana, standing. Let's bring a little bit of weight over onto this leg. So we're not coming way over onto that leg. Just taking a bit of weight onto that standing leg and bringing that foot up onto that inside of the leg. Yep, it looks a little like a small tree. And now we're just going to move through this hip and the knee. Take that foot up a little higher. See if you can keep your pelvis relatively quiet here. Now start to move through that hip and grab hold. Now you'll notice I didn't lean over to grab it. I tried to keep as much of the movement in through my hip and my knee. Yeah? So that I can train this. If I'm going down here to grab it, now I'm making this more of a torso arm pull and my hip becomes more passive. So I'm wanting to play, even though I might not go as far, I'm wanting to play with really focusing in on what's going on with the hip. Now, yes, if you're doing this like so, you might land up on your knee. And so you get to decide whether that's appropriate for you or not. Okay, good. Woo! It's a little windy down here in the basement of this cabin. All right, okay, down we come. All right, so now come back to here. Let's do the other side. Rotate that leg bone. Bring that foot up. Take it up onto the shin. And then from here, if it makes sense. Good, if it makes sense. Good, and then away. Good, and then coming down. Perfect. All right, now come back here. Notice where you're at. Play around with a bit of a chair. So watching the hip and the knee. Oftentimes people like to push their knees forward, which is a movement. But what I'd like to show you today is this hip, knee, ankle movement. It's as if you're sitting into a chair or onto a toilet right? Hip, knee, and ankle. And then we're just going to stay here. And then bring the arms up. And check in with your breathing. Good. And then come on up. Good. Lovely. Let's come back down to the floor now. We'll finish up with a twist. So bringing a knee up toward your belly, hand comes onto the leg, shoulder girdle stays where it is. Let's bring that leg across the body. Just notice where your range is. Keeping your shoulders easy on the ground. And then coming on back. And then other side. Good. And then coming across. And moving at a pace and a rate that you really can feel what's going on in your body. Great. And then come on back. Lovely. So take a moment and just feel what has happened through this practice in your body. It may be that you want to go on and do something a little bit more intense or a little bit more relaxing or go for a walk, or you're going to do what I do and go for breakfast. Whatever it is that you do next, pay attention to what the sensations are in your body and then take that with you with wherever you go, okay? One thing I do want to say is what you can count on. I'm going to schedule in every Wednesday morning going forward is going to be ease is the foundation of strength. So you can catch that consistently every single Wednesday, at least until Christmas time, okay? So if you would like more of that, certainly tune in with me on Wednesdays. You have a great day, and take really good care of yourself and those around you. See you tomorrow.